Congresswoman Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for being before us today. Mr. Chairman, I think that I am having the same problem that a lot of other people are with respect to what's going on in our country, and that is that we continue to say that small businesses in particular, create the jobs. So we're seeing, and we know that employment lags behind when the economy is turning around. So let's just say for a minute that maybe we're turning around, maybe we've gotten to the break-even point. We might be growing a little bit, we may not, and we're not going to see employment pick up for a while. I think everybody's sort of coming to that realization. But here's the problem I had. Most of the businesses, small businesses that were in business, who are one of those businesses that's in businesses because it's the good times, and so there's money flowing and there's lots of excess fat and people are getting into business for that reason. Those are gone. Now you have your businesses that have been around for a while, a lot of them that took some good precautions, are in a normal type of period, financially pretty sound. They can't get the money, they can't get working capital. They just can't get loans to buy inventory or to upgrade the technology that they need, and banks aren't lending still. So we're at almost a 0% interest rate. I mean, money is pretty cheap, but even those credits that before were good credits and today are still pretty good credits can't get to the money. So what do you suggest? I mean, what is happening out there? What are we missing? What do we need to do? And it doesn't seem like the SBA administration or getting a loan. I mean, there's so much paperwork to that. The caveats are, as you know, sometimes difficult to get to, and it's a long process. So these businesses today are saying, we've made it through, we're still around, but we still can't get the working capital to really move forward. And I've seen a lot of businesses like that who are actually good credits, but they have no equity in their homes where they used to go before to borrow against their own personal wealth. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do about that? I mean, what do you suggest? Or what can the Congress do? Or what can we do in conjunction to get that moving?
Well, let me first agree with your premise that small businesses do create a lot of jobs, particularly in economic recoveries. And to the extent that they can't get credit, that's going to slow or prevent their expansion. That's very important. And so that's a top priority for the Federal Reserve. I don't want to take too much time, but the issues really are complicated. There are some firms that, had got easy credit earlier, and now they can't qualify for tougher credit terms. There are some firms that are not demanding credit. Frankly, if you look at the surveys, their number one problem is lack of demand, lack of customers. And the surveys also suggest that some firms are able to get credit, though not all. So it's a complicated picture. That being said, one credit-worthy small business that can't get credit, that's too many. We want to fix that. And we've approached this from a long list of policy actions, including strengthening the banking system, including our interest rate policies you mentioned, but I mentioned specifically in our supervisory role, as I discussed briefly in my remarks, we have issued very strong guidance to banks and to examiners, and very explicitly to examiners, that small businesses are to be evaluated based on their ability to pay, not based on their industry, not based on their geography, and that we encourage, for example, second-round reviews if the first one doesn't pass. We are very explicit that decline in the value of the collateral of the home or the store is not in itself a reason to mark down or deny the loan. We have been working very hard to get feedback, and one of the problems we get, frankly, is that bankers tell their congressmen, we're having a problem, but they won't tell us for one reason or another. We're trying to make sure we get as much feedback as possible, and so we've been having meetings around the country at all the reserve banks in the different districts with bankers, with small businesses, with community activists to try to understand what are the barriers, what can we specifically do. So we're working very hard to improve that situation. Unfortunately, credit is somewhat tighter and will be somewhat tighter, and that's probably unavoidable. But we do want to make sure that credit-worthy borrowers are able to access credit, and we're working very hard on that. In terms of what Congress can do, there are some proposals. The administration has a proposal to use some leftover TARP funds to essentially incentivize small banks, because small banks are more likely to be lenders to small businesses. Sure,
they know they're closer to.
And they know them better, and they have longer-term relationships. We have been doing a lot to try to increase our data information about those loans. Now, it would take another lengthy discussion to talk about the pros and cons of that specific proposal, but there may be different ways to incentivize or support, either through the SBA or directly, small banks which know those customers to increase their lending. And I would encourage you to look at that.
Well, Chairman, I would like to discuss with you or your people how we might get to that point. We have information from our bankers. Maybe they're not telling you. Maybe we need to bring them in and talk to you. It just seems like there is a disconnect, and we need to get beyond this barrier to really get what seemed to me to be, I used to be in the financial industry, pretty credit-worthy businesses when they come and they talk to me and I look at their balance sheets, and yet it's almost like the money's right here, but they can't get to it. So
I encourage anyone around the table there who would like to bring in folks. We can work out ways to have those conversations. It would be very helpful to us.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it.